Imagine a familiar scene. The clock reads 2 a.m., you're curled up on the very edge of the bed, your back aching because a 30-kilogram object has claimed about 80% of the mattress. That object is your dog. It's snoring softly, occasionally kicking you in the stomach while chasing some imaginary rabbit in its dream. For many dog owners, this scene is incredibly familiar. Sometimes it's even a little annoying. The fur might make you sneeze. And yet, even though your dog has its own perfectly comfortable bed in the corner of the house, it still chooses you. And more importantly, why do you seem okay with that? This seemingly ordinary behavior actually reveals one of the deepest psychological bonds that can exist between two different species. And most of us have never really thought about it. When it comes to dogs sleeping next to humans, most people usually give the same explanation: because they want warmth. It sounds reasonable. The human body gives off heat. A dog lying next to you will obviously feel warmer. But if you think about it a little more carefully, this explanation starts to fall apart. In a typical home, dogs already have plenty of warm places to choose from. The couch, a thick rug, even that pile of your clothes on the chair. If warmth were the only goal, they would have many options. So why do they keep choosing the same place right next to you? The answer starts to appear when we consider something more fundamental. Sleep is the most vulnerable state an animal can be in. In the wild, when an animal falls asleep, it almost completely loses its ability to respond to danger. It can't run. It can't fight. It can't stay alert. That's why most animals have a very strong instinct. Find the safest possible place to sleep. For many species, that place is a hidden den, a high spot, somewhere difficult to detect. But dogs are different. Instead of choosing a hidden corner, they often choose to sleep close to humans. And that reveals something important. In their instinctive system, humans are seen as a source of safety. Not a shelter, not a cave, but another living being. And in the animal world, that kind of trust between two different species is extremely rare. How do dogs see humans? Many studies on animal behavior have revealed something quite surprising. In many situations, dogs respond to their owners in a way that is very similar to how a child responds to their parents. You can see this through several familiar behaviors. When the owner leaves, many dogs become anxious. When the owner returns, they become extremely excited. And when they encounter something unfamiliar, they often look back at their owner for cues. Psychologists call this pattern attachment behavior. It's the same psychological mechanism that helps young children seek protection from their parents. What's fascinating is that dogs appear to have a very similar behavioral system. So, when your dog chooses to sleep next to you, it isn't simply picking a comfortable place. It's acting on a deep instinct to stay close to the one it sees as its protector. But the story doesn't stop at psychology. Over the past few decades, scientists have begun to discover something even more fascinating. When humans and dogs interact, especially when they look into each other's eyes or when you gently pet them, both bodies release a hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin is often referred to as the bonding hormone. It appears in many meaningful moments, such as a mother holding her baby, two people embracing each other, moments when humans feel trust and connection. What makes this remarkable is that when you pet your dog, oxytocin levels rise in both of you. That means the bond between you and your dog isn't just a feeling from the human side. It's a real biological response happening in both bodies. And when two living beings sleep beside each other for hours every night, that bond can grow even stronger. To understand this more clearly, we need to go back in history. Dogs are one of the earliest animals ever domesticated by humans. Even before agriculture, cities, writing, tens of thousands of years ago, certain wolves that were less afraid of humans began appearing around early human camps. They fed on leftover food. Humans, in turn, started to notice their usefulness, warning about predators, helping with hunting, guarding the camp. Over thousands of years of natural selection, the friendliest wolves gradually evolved into what we now know as domestic dogs. And during that long process, something interesting happened. The dogs that preferred staying close to humans survived better. They were fed more often. They were protected more often. So the trait of wanting to be near humans slowly became part of their genetic makeup. In other words, when your dog jumps onto the bed and sleeps next to you, it's doing something that thousands of generations of its ancestors have done before it. There's another interesting detail. When measured with scientific sleep trackers, dogs actually do disrupt human sleep. They shift positions, stretch, move around during the night. All of these movements can wake you up for a few seconds at a time. But when researchers ask dog owners how they feel about sleeping with their dogs, the answers are often very different. Many people say they actually sleep better when their dog is nearby. At first, this sounds contradictory, but psychologists believe there is a simple explanation: a sense of safety. The human nervous system is extremely sensitive to the presence of another living being. A steady breathing rhythm, a warm body beside you. These signals can tell the brain that the environment is safe. So even if your sleep is briefly interrupted now and then, your overall experience may still feel more relaxed and comforting. Some recent studies also suggest that humans and dogs can synchronize their physiological states with each other. For example, when the owner is calm, the dog tends to be calm as well. When the owner is stressed, the dog can become more restless or alert. This actually isn't very surprising. Dogs are extremely sensitive to social signals. They pay attention to things like facial expressions, tone of voice, body language. Even when you don't realize it, your dog may be quietly reading your emotional state. So when two living beings sleep next to each other for many hours every night, their nervous systems can influence each other in subtle ways. There's a small detail that's easy to miss, but very important. If your dog has been sleeping next to you for months or even years and suddenly stops doing it, it's worth paying attention. Dogs are creatures of habit. When a long-established behavior suddenly disappears, there is usually a reason. Sometimes the explanation is simple: a change in the environment, a new pet in the house, a shift in daily routine. But in some cases, it may be related to health. A dog with joint pain, for example, may hesitate to jump onto the bed. An older dog might start changing its sleeping habits. So, small changes in behavior can sometimes be the only way your dog has to tell you that something isn't right. If we step back and look at the bigger picture, one thing becomes clear. The relationship between dogs and humans is very different from the relationships humans have with most other animals. Dogs can read human emotional signals surprisingly well, respond to the tone of our voice, recognize facial expressions, and often seek physical closeness with their owners. Because of this, many people feel that dogs are something like a real companion, not in the human sense, but in the sense of a living being that can understand and respond to our emotions. After thousands of years of living alongside each other, these two species seem to have adapted to one another on many levels, from behavior to biology and perhaps even emotion. So in the end, who really benefits more? Do dogs sleep next to humans because they need safety? Or do we let them sleep beside us because we need comfort? The answer is both. This may be one of the most perfect symbiotic relationships nature has ever created. We give them a home and protection. In return, they give us a kind of emotional and nervous system stability that no sleeping pill could truly replace. So the next time you wake up at 3 a.m. and realize you only have about 4 inches of mattress left, don't push them off the bed. Take a deep breath. Feel the rhythm of their breathing. And remember this: to that dog, you are their entire world. And that world is quietly sleeping right beside your feet. If this video made you see your dog a little differently, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a comment below. I'd love to know, where does your dog sleep tonight? Thanks for listening.